like so many of us, we come up with an idea and then we just think it's going to turn into, oh, it's so easy. Like
of course.
I'm going to do this and then,
Of course I'm going to be successful quickly too.
Quickly. And it's going to cover all your bills. And when you jump out here, you realize you don't know anything about true entrepreneurship and all the different things that go with it.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Thank Me Later show with me, your host, Jini Thornton, where we help you master your money and transform your life. Today, we are going to get some mastery on some entrepreneurship. We're going to master preparing to leave. Kind of a little different style, though. This is kind of our personal tales of entrepreneurship. So excited to have my very, very, very special guest, my husband and partner, David Thornton. Hey, David.
Hey, we need like an applause here.
Oh, no, we need
we need to add that to the edit.
Extra special applause for David Thornton.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's funny when you've been in business for a long time, it's easy to overlook or forget how it all started, and the transition, because people are like, what? You used to work in corporate America? Yeah, I used to have like a real job, like a job. And we kind of made a decision about the transition into entrepreneurship. And we had some really, really difficult, challenging times. Very challenging.
Yes.
Very challenging. But I wanted to just kind of take a minute and share that, though, because I'd like to save some people some pain, because I see people making some of the same mistakes that we made. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, nothing has changed. Right. But certainly would like to be a little bit of an open book and share our story.
Okay.
So what I wanted just to kind of give some background and context of how we ended up in Atlanta and started kind of down the entrepreneurship road. So for me personally, I think I kind of had just a little bit of a leg up because I was adopted into a family that had a lot of entrepreneurs. So I got to see it firsthand. So, I had an aunt and uncle, my Aunt Lori and Uncle James, who owned the bar, and my grandfather owned a lot of real estate and a pool hall. So I kind of saw what was going on. But what was always interesting to me, David, was that I had relatives who were entrepreneurs who always borrowed money from my mother, who was an educator. And I'm like, they're making money, but something just is not adding up here.
Right.
So I knew it was possible for me. Had my Aunt Betty in Chicago, who was, just the dopest businesswoman, owning her own boutique. So we, fast forward, I graduated from college. We moved to Atlanta. I'm in corporate America, KPMG, accounting firm. And I'm like, I think these people are trying to kill me. I mean, I don't know if you remember, my work schedule was crazy, particularly during tax season. And I hated asking for permission to have time off or to pick up our kids, to kind of work through our schedule. And I was like, I'm out. I kind of had this idea of being out. And now, hindsight, looking back, I'm like, I don't think we ever really had an appropriate conversation about my transition out.
We didn't.
So
if I remember.
Right.
Yeah.
There was no real preparation, no real plan, but I know I made a lot of my decision out of frustration, valid frustration, right? Because I'm just like, we were young, back up against the wall and trying to manage these two kids. And I literally left. I had an idea, I'm an accountant, I can help people do their taxes or bookkeeping or whatever. And in my mind, it just was all going to be like magical and we all were going to live happily ever after. And it did not happen anywhere close to that at all.
Yeah. I mean, I give a lot of advice to young entrepreneurs about this now. And I had to learn it the hard way, and we had to learn it through this situation where I always suggest if you have a job and you want to become an entrepreneur, especially when you have real expenses like a family or kids or whatever that is, I always say kind of use a seesaw approach to it.
Yeah.
The and.
The and.
So as tough as it might be, continue to work that job. because at least that's steady income for you. It's a paycheck every week. Then people don't understand when you jump out here, especially if, like so many of us we come up with an idea and then we just think it's going to turn into, oh, it's so easy. Like,
of course.
I'm going to do this and then,
Of course I'm going to be successful quickly, too.
Quickly. And it's going to cover all your bills. And when you jump out here, you realize you don't know anything about true entrepreneurship and all the different things that go with it. So, yeah, you'll end up here. And we did where you thought that things were going to turn around a lot faster.
And they didn't. Right.
Yeah.
And I ended up having to start doing some work again. That's when I ended up doing some consulting work for Coca-Cola. I ended up teaching at Spelman because I was scrambling at that point. Mm-hmm. Because we did not prepare. And so one thing that I learned, and I've learned watching other entrepreneurs, it takes 2 to 3 times as long and costs 4 times as much as what you think.
Yep.
And I think if we went into it that way, we would prepare that way. So it's not going to be quick. So assume it's going to take 2 years. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? If I say that to you, now how are you going to prepare? If you think it's going to cost you $25,000, it's really going to cost you $75,000.
Right.
What do you think?
No, that's the way if you're going to do it, prepare that timeline and get a little bit clearer. I don't agree with the whole business planning thing as far as just really, people pay money to get a full business plan because it's supposed to be a clear pathway. Business changed so much that thing might be obsolete 6 months later.
Right.
But you do have to plan for marketing, for all of these other different things that you haven't thought about.
Right.
So kind of extending that and working, even if you're working your way down or cutting your hours or something like that. One time when I had to, when I was about to leave, when I was starting another business, I was blessed enough I was such a good employee that the company gave me the ability to work part-time.
Right.
And they had never done that before. Yeah. Which then kept my benefits.
Which was huge
because that's the other thing. You don't think about that.
For sure.
Kept my benefits and kept some money rolling in, and then I continued to grow my business until the point where now
you could leave.
I could leave.
Right.
Yeah. It was making more. It didn't make sense for me to stay working
at your job
because I was making more money doing that.
And I think what you just said, David, is the quotable part. It didn't make sense to work anymore. Not that you just didn't want to. It just didn't make sense because you could make more money. There. Right, of course.
Yeah.
But you're really speaking to stepping down versus stepping out. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that people really need to look into. So I get that you don't want to work for someone else, but also what you don't want is to not have enough income. Because I always hear people like, oh, I have X amount saved. Now, that's dope. You need to have money saved, but what you need is income. Because, see, if you just keep living, you don't even want that expectation or create that of living using your savings. Right. You need income.
You'll be surprised how fast you can go through your savings.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh.
Without some type of income coming in.
You have to have consistent income and understand that commitment is a season, though. And to me, that lets me know your stamina of being an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship to me really is about stamina. Like to me, it's about pain management. When you think about not sprinters, but like distance runners. Our son Cameron is a distance runner. Distance running is about pain management. How much pain can you take?
Yeah.
And
what was that saying that I think it was a shirt that said my sport
is your punishment.
Is your punishment.
Yeah. So running. Yeah. I love that because it's true.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurship is more of a marathon. It's not a sprint. So you have to be built for that. And there's a lot of pain and challenges that come with that.
It's something else we didn't touch upon is you might jump out here and think you want to start X business.
Right.
And at least if you keep your job and you start part-time, once you get into the weeds of X business, you might be like, man, I don't want to do this.
Yep.
This is not the business that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But at least if you keep your job, you can go back and you still have money coming in, or
Absolutely.
Something might happen. I've even had business ventures that I knew were going to work and got out there And then it hit me like,
this is not, I need to pivot.
Yeah, I need to pivot. And if you're just out there waiting for that income to come in, it can get a little challenging.
Yeah, no, extremely challenging. So when you think about entrepreneurship in the context of a couple, I think another thing that I did not do a good job of was properly communicating with you. Just to say, why are you looking at me? You're like, yeah, agreed. You're right. You were not properly communicating.
Those were the early years.
Yeah. But what I mean by that too is understanding how if you're not single, if you cohabitate with somebody, married or not, have kids, whatever the extent of your relationship is, that decision has impact on other people. And not having a cadence of checking in, saying, hey, this is what's happening. Because when you don't do that, you end up only talking about the business when things are bad because you're stressed. And now you're not having a really good, productive conversation. You're on defense. So you're already feeling bad because the business isn't doing good. And now you have not had that proper communication. So I strongly suggest that people, again, please have a commitment, Sundays at 4, Wednesdays at 8 p.m., whatever that is, where you are tapping in with who you cohabitate with so they can get an understanding of what's going on and not just like you wake up in the morning, what you doing? You ain't doing this, these bills are due, blah, 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 blah. I just think about the stress of not communicating with you properly.
Yeah. I mean, and granted, there was just a lot going on at that period of our life. So I know now, and it's great advice to tell people, yeah, we definitely need to communicate. But I think I even thought your business had a chance, which clearly it did at this point.
Right.
Which it's pivoted 20 different ways to get to this point.
Right.
But yeah, it was lack of communication was definitely it was a pain point.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because I would get up and go to work and slave and do all this. And then I always had a side hustle that I was doing. And I'd come back and be like, what the hell you been doing?
Show me the money, boo. Show me the money.
You been doing what?
Exactly.
At the end of the week is the zero at the end of it? Okay.
Right. And again, hindsight looking back, and it's not like it was just us. We already had 2 kids.
Yeah.
So like we were like
real bills.
Like we had real bills, real responsibilities, and we had real stress. Mm-hmm. We had real stress. So again, I understand people who are frustrated. I know what that feels like. Yeah, I'm out of here. And I'm like, I get that. I get that. But it's I equate it to, how you hear about couples, it's like 2:00 in the morning, they're having a big fight. So you grab your purse and you run, I'm leaving. It's like, girl, where you going?
Where you going?
Where you going? And it's just like, you cannot quit under those circumstances. You have to think over time and space and prepare for your exit. Make a conscious decision. How much money do you need to have saved? What income do you have coming in? Assuming it does take longer, and I don't mean like 2 months longer, 3 to 4 times longer than what you think. How long are you going to be able to financially survive? It is difficult to grow a business when you're stressed about money. It's very difficult to be creative. It's very difficult when you're just in survival mode, because we just talk about sheer survival at this point.
Right.
Yeah, not like, are we going to Disney World or not? Like, can we pay our mortgage and have gas in the car? So, I mean,
it's especially difficult when like you said, that you grew up with entrepreneurs around you. But for someone who doesn't understand entrepreneurship,
right,
will never be an entrepreneur or whatever, it's hard for them to understand. So it is important for you to be clear on the pathway and some dates and how it's going to happen.
Right.
Because they are sitting back there like, all right, it's been 6 months.
Yeah, it ain't the math, and the math is not math in here.
No. And yeah, you spending all my money, now it becomes my money.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now it's like, hold up.
Right. Yeah. And it's a lot of tension. Oh my God, it is so much tension. The other thing too, though, where I think, although we started out the wrong way, I started out the wrong way. I did not take responsibility for my actions for leaving. But I also think I had a competitive advantage of being an accountant.
Oh yeah, you have a skill that can turn into money.
Not only do I have a skill that turns into money, but I understand how businesses work as a result of that. And you start a business to make money. And so I understood, money coming in, money going out, taxes, all the stuff that people avoid typically. I'm like, oh, I could do that in my sleep. That's the easy part for me. So I think that allowed me to kind of get my footing a little faster as far as the entrepreneurship part. But I also, this is a whole nother session for another day. I need therapy for this one. I spent all that time and money and education, and I hated preparing tax returns. My mom was pissed. Like, you have a master's degree in tax and you don't like to prepare tax returns? I hated it.
Your mom was pissed.
You were pissed. That is so funny. I'm like, this is not the way it was in school.
Hold up. I made a lot of sacrifices around here for you to.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
you gonna do some taxes.
And all jokes aside, that's literally how my business started, with me preparing tax returns, doing the thing that I said I would never do, that I hated to do, but it was the thing that I could monetize the fastest.
And that's an interesting kind of part of it, is the fact that at least you did have that fallback skill that can instantly turn into money
right away.
Whereas some business ventures, they're subjective. So if done right, they could generate income, but then again, it's not really a skill,
right,
that turns directly into money. So I think that's one thing that helped us,
right,
was the fact that you did have something that people need and people will pay for, and you had this skill to do it.
I could flip it immediately, and had to. I was the accountant that didn't want to be one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, that's a whole nother episode for another day. So right now I want to go to the Thank Me Later hotline. We have a caller who has an entrepreneurship question for us.
All right, hotline.
Hi, I'm Jasmine from Tampa. I've been in corporate for about 6 years. I've been doing personal coaching on the side for the past 2 years, and it's starting to take up a lot of my time. I'm very blessed and grateful for that, but I think I'm ready to transition to my own business now full time. When do I know it's the right time to leave my 9 to 5 and pursue my dream? Or is there something else I should be looking for before I start to pursue my dream?
That's for me.
That's for us.
That's for us.
I want to hear you answer, but I have an answer too.
I think I kind of answered it before. When you're coaching or whatever your business, so she wants to become a full-time coach.
Mm-hmm.
When I would say, and that's one thing that's also interesting, is nowadays everybody wants to be a coach.
Mm-hmm.
So have you really established yourself well enough to continue? Because being a coach, you got to get out and keep hunting. You got to keep killing.
Keep new clients, yeah.
So have you done it long enough to realize that you have the tenacity or drive or whatever to continue to, once that coaching session with that person is over, you've got more, you got to keep reselling? And then have you done it to a point where you're looking at, once again, what you make as a salary and what you make as a coach, and it's kind of even?
Right.
Because you do want to step across, not down, because you might step down, especially as a coach, and then your clients dry up. And now what? And if you're not strong enough or aggressive enough to go out and be outside.
Sell. You have to sell.
You have to sell.
You have to sell.
You have to sell to even become a coach, or market well or whatever, but you have to sell. So that's my advice, is just to really evaluate how your business is really doing. How where's this next pool of business coming from? Are you in a niche that they can afford your coaching? A lot of people want to go out and coach and think they can charge what some coaches are charging, but they're not even in that network.
Right.
So
or at that level yet.
And they haven't established themselves. So that just that's what I would say. Suggest is really, take a look at every aspect of it before you jump out there.
When I hear you say that, it just also makes me think about this notion on social media, like everything is just quick, fast, instant. Y'all, that is a lie. It is a lie. So am I saying it's going to take 20 years for you to be popping? No, but it takes time, and it takes resilience, because it is not going to be perfect. You're going to have seasons that are extremely difficult. I want to answer Jasmine's question, because the first thing I was thinking, David, when she asked the question, I'm like, I want to know the math. And I'm not talking about like trigonometry, calculus math. I'm talking about very basic addition and subtraction. You need to know what it costs to run your personal life. What does it cost to run your household? What is it going to cost to run your business? And how easily can you do that in this transition? So can you, again, step down in your job to create a little bit more stability to get your income up? Because you want to prepare for the gap. And you could do some very basic math and be like, oh, I don't have any gap. Or you're like, whew, shoot, I have a $3,000 gap a month. Like, do the math first. And I think people are always intimidated by accounting because they think it's like calculus. It is not. Accounting is rules. You just need what's coming in and what's going out. You can figure that out, but you have to know that confidently, because then you can step into it knowing, okay, this is my shortfall, or high fives all around, I'm good.
I think another thing that people need to understand is they might need to back down off their lifestyle a little bit.
We're going to talk about that in just a minute.
Okay,
hold tight. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Ooh.
because
yeah.
And I was going to say something else, and it slipped my mind because I'm a little older. It'll come back to me.
It's not because you're older.
Yeah.
One thing I want to make sure that we share some resources. So for those of you who are on your entrepreneurship journey, please feel free to engage with us within our Thank Me Later community. That's at thankmelater.money. Thankmelater.money. We have a ton of amazing resources to help guide you with your personal finances and some information that you need for your entrepreneurship journey. Other thing I'm going to suggest from a resource perspective, I'm going to give David more credit than this. Like, you need to stay current. You're going to have to find a couple of podcasts, people that you need to be listening to who are feeding you the game, because you need to shorten your education time. You can't just be head down in the business and you're not learning some things about entrepreneurship, because there's this constant learning that has to happen. You can't just focus on your craft. I wish it were that simple, but it is not that simple at all.
So I remembered what I was going to say.
Okay.
And it was along those lines, in that I think people see on social media, or they see whatever way that they see these one or two shooting stars that start a business and then it takes off and they're making real money.
Right.
But what they also might not know is that shooting star has been working at this for a few years, and they only see
plural years.
They've been working on it or building up some other aspect of it. They have a network maybe.
Right.
Or some other, so when they pull the trigger, they shoot right off.
Right.
So, and like you said, I stay learning.
Oh yeah. No, I definitely give you more credit for that. I think I just tap into your brain when
you just suck it off. You suck it off from me.
I do. I cheat. I do that.
But yeah, go ahead.
One thing that I was thinking about preparing for this, I kept thinking about working in the basement at 932, our first house.
Yeah, you still have that card table.
So literally, at this time, our basement wasn't even finished at first. Concrete floor, literally a card table that we still have. And we went to, what was that PC store out there on Windy Hill?
Micro Center.
We went to Micro Center and literally started a business by buying a computer and some software. Mm-hmm. Like, that was it.
And we had a payment on that.
We financed the computer. Jesus, we had to store finance it because we were broke. But literally on a card table in an unfinished basement. And I think we were in that basement at least, 5 years, if not more?
At least 5 years.
At least 5 years. I think we're in the basement.
Until the neighbors started complaining about.
No, we moved.
Oh, we moved. Then
yeah,
the neighbors started
then the
complaining.
neighbors started complaining.
Right. About all these cars pulling up.
Exactly.
Are y'all running a business?
So at the time when the business started picking up, I was still teaching at Spelman, again in this and season. And I could identify kind of like my superstar students, and we would have some of the students, remember Kara and Britt, who would come and help us. They would be helping us out part-time. Look, babysitting our kids, helping in the office. But again, still in the season of but David, we were not in the basement for 5 months. Yeah. We were in the basement for that house at least 5 years. Yeah. I think longer than that, like you said that. Yeah. We lived in that house, I think, about 11 years. So I say all that to say.
And then went to the new house and worked out of basement.
And worked in the basement again. Mm-hmm. Again, I think we were there only another year or two. And literally you put us out and made us get an office space.
Starting to look a little ghetto.
You were crazy. But I appreciate you putting us out because it was time for us to expand and grow. But I didn't want to because I was afraid. Mm-hmm. And I was like, we've been broke. I'm not going to be broke again. And so we were ultra, ultra, ultra conservative in beginning to when we started making money, we did not change anything. And so that's one thing that I noticed is people, their business starts doing good and their lifestyle raises. But guess what? You're not ready for the rain to come when you do that because the rain is coming. I promise you the rain is coming. And when you hear the statistic of over 50% of businesses go out of business in the first 5 years because you're not ready for the rain. And so we had a lot of rain that came, but because we were so low key with it, we were like, it's raining, but we ain't really tripping about that right now. We were good. We were good. I didn't even want to upgrade our house. You were like, nope, it's time for us to move. I'm like, but I was so afraid. We had been broke for so long.
Right.
I'm like, nope, I know I'm good. So why do you think, was it easy for us to make the decision not to upgrade?
I think that is kind of more our personality or character that has helped. That is never that's one thing that helped you, helped you out here.
Help you stay in the game. Okay, keep my Thornton status.
That's it. Is you were never that, and still aren't, that super flashy where you had to, we had to show off all, whatever money we had and wear it on our backs and the purse, you know what I mean?
Right.
That was never you, and that's definitely not me. Unless I get a good deal on it. Then maybe. If I got it, I got a great deal on it. But
that's another episode for another day too.
Okay. That's a whole another episode. So I think it made it easy for us. And then we have never been that flashy type of couple. So it was easy for us to stay in the basement or whatever and just watch the bank account, rise.
I'm like, we are winning right now.
Yeah, so I think that's a part of it is if you don't care about what everybody says as much,
right,
it definitely helps from a business standpoint.
Right. So can I tell the story of how Envision started? Like the story. I don't know if I've ever publicly told this story before.
It depends.
Oh, this is funny. So I don't think I've ever publicly said this before. So when I worked at KPMG, so for those of you who are familiar, when you hear Deloitte and Pricewaterhouse, I worked for KPMG, one of the largest CPA firms in the world. And Evander Holyfield was one of our clients. I was blessed enough to be on the Evander Holyfield team. So that was my first introduction to working with high net worth people. And the partner at KPMG made sure that people who looked like Evander were on Evander's team. Clearly, there was only a handful of us. So that really kind of opened up my eyes. So I was like, this is dope because I hated the tax preparation. But anyhow, our kids were away for the summer. You know where I'm going with this story. We were taking a walk in our subdivision. And I literally look at David and I said, hey, it's almost literally like I had a premonition. I was like, God told me that I'm going to work I thought it was like with professional sports or something. And I'm like, I'm getting ready to start working with athletes. And you were just looking at me like, so when I said this to you, what were you thinking?
We don't know any athletes. Like, how is this supposed to happen?
And
yeah.
It's a thing now. We've only been in Atlanta a few years.
Yeah.
Struggling. But our kids are away for the summer, and y'all, clear as day, is like I heard this. Like I literally heard God say this, and I was scared to tell David this forever because I'm like, he's gonna think I'm crazy saying this. He's gonna think I'm crazy. Yeah. You did. You thought I was crazy. So, did not know an athlete at all,
and we still don't work.
And still don't work with athletes today. So that was that summer, and then I started volunteering at the radio station. So Hot 97.5 back then had come to Atlanta in 95. I called the station up in 96 and was like, hey, I have this idea and I'd like to do this show. And in a month, they put me on the air. So now that I'm at the station, all the guys realize like I'm an accountant CPA for real. And everybody's like, can you help me do this? Can you help me do that? And then there's this young man who's an intern who I'd been, helping him do his taxes, always had great questions, always had a great business mind. He kept saying, when I become a rapper, I want you to be my accountant. And that intern became Ludacris. Mm-hmm. And that's how we actually got in the business.
And you just said a key thing that people I don't think people recognize is you volunteered.
Yeah.
So you didn't get paid then.
Ever.
You don't get paid now, but
not a dime.
Talk about that. But what it did is it became a not only a way for you to network and meet people, but it also became a platform for you to.
It was the most amazing marketing in the world.
And people don't understand. Back in the day, people used to apprentice for different businesses or intern.
Right.
And there's a lot of power in getting into the industry. I said I'm not going to use family members, so I'm going to say I got a friend. I got a friend who's starting his own little product company, and I suggested he's doing well, and I'm surprised I'm going to make him a she.
Okay.
It's too late. It's too late. It's too late. So it's too late. He's been going at this for a while, and I'm proud of him.
Right.
But I told him you should probably work in the industry for a while.
For sure.
And he's gotten far, but I know I sent him something not too long ago, a text to say, if you'd have jumped in the industry, all the people you need to know
are there.
You would know.
Absolutely.
All the things that you need to know about that, all the shortcuts
are there.
So that's another thing. Even when I started some of my earlier business ventures, I was good to be like, hey, man, I work for you. You do what? I work for you for free. And learn all I needed to learn about it, and then took a step off or whatever. So that's extremely valuable.
And I think people now, there's this appearance that, if I'm not getting paid, I'm not going to do it. And I'm like, you don't know what you are missing. Yeah. And volunteering changed my whole life, literally, just by volunteering.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about it putting myself in that industry around those people. Because in my head, what I heard was that athlete. So my message was off a little bit. It was supposed to be entertainers, but I could have never gotten there without volunteering at the station.
And you volunteered and you went into it. Not only, some people might volunteer just looking for, they don't go into it with the right thing in mind. You went into it with a whole heart of giving.
Right.
And giving to this. If you hadn't given to this young man who was extremely talented and extremely driven or whatever, and some of the other ones around there, because the whole team
I worked for so many people.
You worked for some that probably would have never happened.
For sure.
But you were open with giving and sharing and volunteering, and that was reciprocated back.
Right. No, for sure. And I do think that, 26 years later, we still work with Chris Bridges. But it also, because like you said, we were all in with the station. So I got to do events. And doing like free tax prep day, which led me to, what'd you say?
That we didn't get paid for.
Everything is about the money. But I learned a lot on how to do events at that time too. Like, I can execute an event. I understood marketing, and I got to network.
Huge events.
Yeah, huge. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So again, just on your path of entrepreneurship, you need to be a little open on where could you give, where you could learn and get connected. But you got to be all in and give, though. Not just on the mission to get. You need to be all in and give. Any other business advice? And you think about the context of how we got started. Anything else? You're like, ooh, please don't do that. Or high five when we did this.
No, I think a lot of it was we discussed in knowing that, kind of having a timeline, a realistic timeline, having a plan, loose plan, but a plan. Be clear with who your customer is or where the money is coming from up front, and then ease your way into the business until you're sure that that's even what you want to do, that it supports the income you want to make or whatever. And really, I'm giving a few of them, dive in, learn all you can learn about it. Because when you jump out on your own, and not only about just that, about marketing, about sales, about whatever, about accounting, about all of those other things, try to learn something about that and surround yourself with people who might have done that before you.
In our next episode, we'll give some tips on when you're in trouble, because I don't want to talk about that now. I'm going to hold that. We can't share all the information today. Cool. So I need to ask you a question.
Yes.
As we get ready to wrap. Okay, so this is the fill in the blank I need you to answer. I wish I would have had what when starting my business?
Money.
Definitely
that.
Right.
No, what's more valuable than money?
What?
A mentor.
A mentor. If people actively look for a mentor, you will thank us later for that, for sure. You will thank us later.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That is worth more than money. Someone who can show you how to skip the line. Just really give you the guidance you need, and you listen and find a mentor that's done it now.
Yeah. No.
But that's invaluable.
If you make the investment of time to identify a mentor, you will certainly thank us later.
And money.
Yeah, sometimes not having money could be an advantage for sure. I've seen people because they had money. Oh my God!
I can't tell you the number of people who
they blew it,
have money and
wasted so much of it. The worst thing they could have had was money.
Because when you don't have money, you get extremely creative on trying to figure it out.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
My thank me later tip is. If you make a commitment to understanding your numbers, you will thank me later. Again, you don't have to be an accountant. You don't have to be a CPA. But if you cannot understand what you have coming in and what you have going out, I promise you are going to be in trouble. Businesses don't fail because they're not good ideas or great products or even have great people. They don't have an understanding of the numbers. Okay, so you have to get an understanding of the numbers. All right, you do that, you'll thank us later. So I know, David Thornton, you don't have any social media, so we can't promote any of that.
Coming soon.
No, it's not even coming soon. So for additional resources, please continue to engage with the Thank Me Later community. You can go to thankmelater.money to connect with us. My social media is at TML Money and Jini Thornton, of course. Of course, you can get more episodes. You can go to thankmelatershow.com to consume the rest of our content. And thank you for tuning into the Thank Me Later show with me, Jini Thornton, where we help you master your money and transform your life. Thank you for tuning in with us today.